Me and my friends join a Pokemon Draft League. Every week we will face a new coach to determine who becomes the champion of the season. Will we make it to the top of the standings? What is going on today, and welcome to the IBL. This week, the Opelousas Roaring Moons are facing Pac-Man, coach of the Sacramento Sandslash. They're a very scary team with probably the most broken Pokemon from the DLC, Ogerpon Hearthflame. They also have my counterpart, an Urshifu Rapid Strike, a Fezandipiti, a Noivern that it can Terra into Terra Normal, Iron Tread, Hisuian Zoroark, and the list goes on. So this week we're going to have to pull out a lot of the stops to try to beat this team. So let's look at the team that's going to do exactly that. But before we get into the team builder, I do want to make the like and subscribe call out before the team builder just to see if it helps out a little bit. So if you've been watching the channel, we've had a ton of new viewers come in, and if you're liking the content, then please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. That way you get updated every single time a new video comes out, and at the end of the day, it'll make me feel a little bit better. So let's hop into the team builder. So first, we are starting off with Halson the Urshifu. We are bringing a Choice Scarf set this week with Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Zen Headbutt for the Fezandipiti, and U-Turn. We actually just max speed. That way we can speed tie the other Urshifu in case it is also Scarf. Then we have Ketheric the Landorus. Again with the Choice Scarf, we're bringing double Scarf this week with Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Hammer Arm, and U-Turn. Earthquake just kind of does a lot to the team, and it really helps us out, and I think having a double Scarf will really throw them off in the end game, because both these Pokemon don't really need anything else. So if they knock off one Choice Scarf, then they won't be expecting a second one to come in and clean the game later. Next, we have Gale the Rotom Wash. We have leftovers with Hydro Pump, Thunder Wave, Thunderbolt, and Volt Switch. We're just a max defense set to take hits from the Urshifu, and Thunder Wave just to spread it around, because if we can make their team slower, then that is really good for us. Next, we have Shadowheart the Cyclizar with Assault Vest and Rapid Spin, Draco Meteor, Overheat, and U-Turn. We're just max special attack and max speed. There's not really a way for the Cyclizar to break the Fezandipiti super reliably. We could go physical with like Iron Head or Iron Tail, but if they're a max defense set, then it really doesn't work, and they can still just roost out, and if we go Iron Tail, we might miss. So we're just opting for this set, and most of the time if Fezandipiti is alive, we're going to U-turn, hoping that the Fezandipiti is the thing that comes in. That way we can get our Revavroom onto the field later, and we just have Draco Meteor and Overheat. Mainly we're bringing this because of the Zoroark Hisui, because we don't really have any switch-ins to Zoroark Hisui, especially because it gets like Will-O-Wisp, and again, if I go physical Cyclizar, then Will-O-Wisp can be a problem for it. So that is the whole reason behind the Cyclizar set. Next, we have Will the Revavroom. We are carrying Expert Belt with Shift Gear, Iron Head, Terra Blast, and Gunk Shot, and we are Terra Water this week because of the Iron Treads and a few other things. This is really all we need. If this thing can get set up once, and maybe even twice, the game is over. The team is super frail, and the bulky things take a ton from Revavroom. So Revavroom doesn't have to do a ton this week. We are actually adamant too, because Shift Gear gives us a +2 speed. Their team is kind of slow at the top end, so we don't even have to be jolly to outspeed even the Scarfers that could be scarfed at the top, like Zoroark Hisui. So we were able to go adamant this week. And then last is the Tinkatuff with Eviolite and Pickpocket. We have Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, Play Rough, and Knockoff. This is basically, again, just to cripple their team down, especially with the Fezandipiti there. We want to make sure that we have a way to switch into that. And with the Terra Noivern, we want to make sure we have a way to switch into Boom Burst and Draco Meteor. And this can do both of those things, which is really good for us. So that is the team. If you would have done anything differently, let me know in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the battle. Alright, so we do see they bring the Noivern, the Cryogonal, which I did not expect, the Fezandipiti, the Zoroark Hisui, the Ogerpon, and the Electros. And I kind of expected Electros a little bit. I really didn't think it would come over a few of the other things, but I also thought that there was a good chance that it did come. So we are just going to lead with our Urshifu, and they do end up leading Fezandipiti, so we're just going to U-turn out right here and try to get a little bit of momentum into something else, and we're going to go straight into our Landorus. So right off the bat, they hit us with a Crit Moonblast, which is pretty tough, but luckily we don't get 2-hit KO'd by Crit Moonblast. So we're just going to U-turn out, expecting a switch into the Electros here, and we're going to see what my opponent does. And they go straight into the Noivern, actually, so we're going to get to go into something that can pressure this a little bit. So we go into the Tinkatuff here, and I just want to spread a T-Wave. I want to cripple down the team a little bit, but the problem is they go straight into the Electros, and I'm okay with that. I'm just going to get rocks up on the Electros here, and then I'm going to knock off its item. We are basically okay trading this Tinkertuff for the Electros because we have double Scarf, so we can deal with the Noivern, and Tinkertuff taking damage is not that big of a deal. And if I can trade the Pokemon that I have a hard time getting damage onto for my Tinkertuff, for my 1-point Pokemon, that is fine with me. So we're just going to continue to play rough and get damage off, and they eventually end up killing our Tinkertuff here, which is fine because we did about 40% to this Electros. So here I go into the Cyclizar and I just U-turn out. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't switch out there. I was expecting them to go into Fezandipiti almost every single time, but they just stayed in and decided to click knockoff, and I guess they were going to eat the Draco or let me shift gear up or whatever. They didn't really scout for anything, which kind of surprised me. So I go into Landorus, we lose the Scarf, but that's not the end of the world. And again, they just stayed in. I guess they're just going to let the Cyclizar, they're going to let the Electros go down here. So we just U-turn again, right back into the Cyclizar because there's not a lot that this Electros can do to it. And I'm just going to continue to U-turn around until they decide that they don't want to let this Electros live anymore. So they go for the Flamethrower on the Urshifu, and they get another crit, which is kind of big because that did half of our damage. And we're just going to U-turn because U-turn kills here, and then if they go into Fezandipiti, then we'll U-turn on that too. But they let the Electros go down, and we get to go right into our Reviv room to kind of make sure that the Fezandipiti doesn't come in on the field, because I don't want that on the field right now. So they go into what looks like Fezandipiti, but this is clearly Zoroark Kasui, and we know this thing gets Will-O-Wisp, so we do not want to eat that Will-O-Wisp, so we're going to go right into our Cyclizar. And we see the Will-O-Wisp, which confirms the Zoroark Kasui, and obviously Fezandipiti does not have Will-O-Wisp in its move pool. So we're just going to go for a U-turn here because I'm sure that they're going to switch out. They're not going to let something just eat a Draco Meteor here. And they go right into the Ogre Pond, which takes rocks, which is really, really good for us. And we get the U-turn off. And we can go right into our Urshifu here because Scarf Urshifu always outspeeds any masked Ogre Pond because they cannot raise their speed with an item. And I really wanted to go for Zen Headbutt here, but it just didn't kill the Ogerpon, and I was scared that they would stay in, especially because we ate that crit earlier. That means that Ivy Cudgel kills now, which is kind of rough for us. So I just opted to go for the Wicked Blow, so if they did stay in, that we would kill. And with rocks and the Wicked Blow, Fezandipiti will still take a lot of chip from it, so that's okay with me. So they do switch out right into the Cryogonal, and they take a ton from Wicked Blow. I'm kind of surprised that that was the switch. But that's okay with me because that just gives us one step closer to letting Reviv Room win an endgame, or letting Scarf Urshifu just Wicked Blow through an endgame. So Fezandipiti comes out, we see they take the rocks plus the Wicked Blow, they get their Black Sludge, but they take a good amount of chips. That's really good for us, and now we can go into Landorus because we don't die to a Moonblast. And they go for the Moonblast, and we don't die, but then they get the Toxic Chain, and this Fezandipiti has essentially hacked down this Landorus, because if they didn't crit earlier, we wouldn't have died to the Toxic there, and if they didn't get the Toxic Chain there, obviously we wouldn't have died. So we've kind of lost our Landorus for a whole lot of nothing, but we get to go into Reviv Room here, and the game is almost over. I get to set up twice here because we're EV'd out of Heat Wave range with Filter, so I don't even have to Terra, and they go for the Heat Wave, and we're going to go for the Shift Gear, and then they get the burn. So after critting our Urshifu, after critting our Landorus into the Toxic Chain proc into killing, they burn our Reviv Room on a Heat Wave. So we have to Shift Gear again, that is without question, and I'm going to Terra Water here just in case they go for the Heat Wave again. We are able to live that and maybe get a couple turns off with the Reviv Room. I don't think that the Reviv Room is going to win the game at this point because we can't kill Noivern anymore. Usually we would be able to Shift Gear twice and Noivern would die, and then you saw the HP on everything else. Everything else was super frail or super low, and obviously they all would have died. So we go for the Shift Gear here again, and then the Fezandipiti goes for Moonblast. So they kind of read the Terra there, and then they don't kill, but because of the burn, we go down, and that sucks because our Reviv Room also did a whole lot of nothing thanks to hacks, and it just kind of sucks for us. So I go into Urshifu here, and I try to go for a Zen Headbutt, because if we can flinch here, Urshifu still wins. If we can flinch here, Urshifu still wins, which is really good for us. So we just need this Zen Headbutt to pull out a flinch for us. And after the game has been going, I think we're owed one, but we don't get it, and then the Urshifu goes down. So I go into Rotom here to just fire off a Hydro Pump, and they go for the Roost. and the hydro pump does not do enough. They're always just going to be able to roost out our hydro pump, so I go for the T-Wave as they go for the Calm Mind, which means our hydro pumps are doing even less here. So we go for the Thunder Wave, and then next turn we go for the hydro pump, and we just don't do enough damage, and they go for the roost, and I actually just opt to go ahead and forfeit the battle here because there is no reason for me to continue playing, especially with the way that battle went. I was not gonna lie, I was a little bit salty, and I kind of felt like my opponent was dragging it out there at the end when they could have just, you know, killed me, and that was pretty much the game. So we are sitting at 2-2. The 2 games that we've lost, one was to JV, which he just brought a really good set, and then this one was a little bit more heartbreaking in terms of how we lost it. So we're not out yet. The season is still going on, obviously. We are going to bounce back. 2-2 is not a bad spot to be in. Most of the league right now is 2-2. I looked at the standings before I recorded this. Most of the league is at 2-2, so playoffs are still anybody's game, and I trust our team in being able to make those. So I hope to see you guys for the rest of the season, and if you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.